What's going on, everyone? So Kirby Reed was a fan favorite character in Scream 4 that many people wanted to see return, right? Scream 4 was always kind of left ominous as to did she live, did she die, right? You can hear the door open and it's like the only person it could have been is Kirby, right? So it's like, ah, man, like she's got to still be alive. And then for a long time, there was this just kind of debate going on among Scream fans of, no, she's dead, she's alive. And then we get the news that she is going to return and that she is indeed alive and she's going to be this FBI agent and all the, we got all the beans spilt on, Hayden Panettiere returning and playing the role of Kirby. And it was exciting, right? A lot of people really enjoyed Kirby. My problem, however, with Scream 6 is I feel that they did a terrible job with Kirby Reed. I think from the story as to how she survived to her being an FBI agent, just kind of felt random. It felt like there were so many pieces to the puzzle missing. And also just the story in general didn't need Kirby, right? Like, it established and set up that she basically is a Ghostface hunter and she tracked these Ghostface to, New York, and that's why she's here, and now she's gonna go. But that went nowhere, right? It wasn't like, obviously, you could have had some tie-in and connection. You could have had maybe something, but where Kirby is kind of like the one that is used to unravel and unfold who the killer is, right? There's this mystery, who's the killer, and she just, by using her skills and the information she has and then putting it to kind of the situation that's here in the friend group or whatever, right? It's like, oh, it has to be this person, right? But none of that happened. Literally, her character could have been anybody. Her character could have been you, and it wouldn't have mattered. There was nothing in that film that Kirby did that somebody else couldn't have done. Even using her as like a red herring would have made more sense if it was anyone else but Kirby. And it was a little disappointing, right? Because, again, she was such a beloved character. And it was a character that you were hoping would answer a lot of questions and have story built upon and all that stuff. And Scream 7 is rumored to have her return. Scream 7 is rumored to see Kirby Reed back in the role and potentially set up and lay the framework for a series and spin-off series starring Hayden that will, basically portray her as the FBI agent. We don't know any details or anything like that. My guess it'll probably be, kind of like a buddy cop type thing where she's going around solving Ghostface murders and stuff, which sounds like a very interesting premise. I'm not against it at all. But do you really need Scream 7 to establish that? Because you didn't establish anything in Scream 6 that required it to be Kirby Reed. If you want to do a series with Kirby, fine. But the question that I want to pose, and of course I want to hear all your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below, is does Kirby even need to be in Scream 7? Now again, obviously if she plays a significant role, right? I did a video not too long ago diving into the potential of maybe Kirby is the catalyst to get Ghostface to go after Sydney, right? Because one of the big questions is like, why after all this time is Ghostface finally going after Sydney? Right? Sydney hasn't been the main target. Ghostface hasn't even bothered Sydney, in like 20 years. Like Sydney wasn't even in Scream 6, but Scream 5, she inserted herself, right? Like she got involved herself because of Dewey. So why now, after all this time, is Ghostface now randomly just targeting Sydney again and her family, right? And who's to say Sydney's even going under Sidney Prescott, right? Again, Scream 3, you saw her going under Laura, and, some people might look at it and go, well, Dewey called her Sid and called her Sydney. Well, he did the same thing in Scream 3, right? Even when he's leaving voicemails and stuff, he's calling her Sid and Sydney, like, hey, Sydney, we need you to pick up. We could really use you here, and blah, 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 right? Like, he knew her as Sydney. He even had her in her phone as Sydney, not as Laura, right? Like, so it's like, maybe Sydney is masquerading around as somebody else, and, maybe Kirby gets attacked, her and her partner get attacked, She ends up making it out. She ends up surviving, but there's sensitive information on Sidney Prescott, and Ghostface uses that information and, is heading and going after Sidney. And now Kirby knows, like, Ghostface just got that information. I need to go tell Sidney. And maybe that's why Kirby gets involved, right? I think that that's a simple kind of explanation and logic as to why A, Ghostface is going after Sidney and why Sidney's involved, and B, Kirby's now inserted and a part of Scream 7, right? I think that that's a very easy, simple, here you go. Now it makes sense why Kirby and Sidney are together and why Kirby's hunting this down and all that stuff. But also, Kirby doesn't really have a relationship with Sidney. Like, she only talked to her, like, twice? I don't even think it's that many times. Right now, obviously, we don't know what happened after the events of Scream 4, and now that she survived, maybe because Sidney and Kirby were probably in the hospital together, so maybe they kept in touch, maybe they've built a relationship. I don't know, right? Maybe Kirby, like, you could even explain Kirby that, like, Mark Kincaid helped Kirby kind of get involved in law enforcement. That could have been a possibility, right? Like, my point is that, like, is Kirby really necessary to drive the story? If it is, and you can paint the picture and you can have her in it and you can tell a story with Kirby and, have it actually serve a purpose while also setting up and establishing a potential series, then fine, I'm all for it. But if we just get Kirby what we got in Scream 6, then, like, what's the point? Like, all you're doing is inserting a character that people are familiar with just to insert a character that people are familiar with. Like, I'd like to see some growth. I'd like to see some backstory. I'd like to see some explanation. I'd like to see some character development. I'd like to see the characters having and serving a purpose other than just like, oh, hey, it's Kirby. Kirby's back, right? Like, that's cool. But what does it serve the actual film? If it doesn't serve the film anything, then I don't think that you should just have her in the film. I'd rather you use that to have some throwaway character you can kill, or have a new character that maybe you can build, grow, and establish, right? Like, there's a million ways that you can kind of, approach this and go about it. And I'm not against having Kirby in it. I'm all for having Kirby in it. But I want there to be a reason she's in it. Right? I mean, even Scream 6 with Gale. There was no reason Gale had to be in that movie at all. Nothing Gale did in that movie required Gale's services. The only thing Gale did was find the shrine room, which Detective Bailey, Dermot Mulroney's character, revealed later that he was going to reveal it regardless. That she just beat him to it. So the one thing that she actually did was irrelevant because we were going to find out about it regardless, right? Where if you would have made it like a secret, like, man, Ghostface really didn't want them finding the shrine room, but now Ghostface had to improvise because, Gale found the shrine room. Well, then that kind of changes things. It kind of, at least she served a purpose. It was, she was able to find the hideout that, maybe they would have taken out, maybe, Gale takes them there and they take out one of the Ghostface. Right? And it's like, oh, wow, okay, so now she served her purpose. But guess what? None of that happened. I mean, Scream 5 with Sidney. There was nothing about that film that Sidney Prescott had to be in it other than it's Sidney Prescott, which, again, I'm all for. I love Sidney. But, again, I'd like her to serve a purpose. The one thing she did was put the tracker on the car, and immediately after she did it, said that Gale could have done it, and that she learned it from Gale. So Gale could have put the tracker on. And then, her fighting off Ghostface and saving the day, we know in hindsight that Mindy was alive. Mindy could have been the hero, and it would have made more sense. It would have been a nice callback to Randy's character and the original idea for Scream. Right? I mean, Scream 5 was, basically a carbon copy of the original Scream. Okay, well, that would have been great. It would have been a nice callback for those that know. That Randy was supposed to be the original hero. That Randy was supposed to save the day and get the girl. Right? Like, that would have been awesome if they went that route, but they didn't. And instead, Mindy was passed out or whatever. She was doing her hiding or whatever. And Sydney, yeah, it was cool to see her on board and shoot through the doors, but again, she served no real purpose. I want these characters to serve a purpose, and it feels like the writers don't know what to do with the legacy characters, right? It feels like they don't really know what to do with Gale unless she's the absolute main focus. They don't really know what to do with Sydney unless she's the absolute main focus. And then Kirby comes in, and it's like they don't know what to do with Kirby unless she's the absolute main focus. Right? At least Dewey, he was the main focus essentially the first half. So he made sense, and no, I thought they did a decent job with that. Same thing with Gale. I thought they did a decent job with Gale because it kind of built, I still thought the overall like arcing story between those two didn't make any sense. The fact that Dewey left, right? That's what Gale always did, right? They kind of reversed Gale and Dewey's roles, which I thought was a little silly, but okay, whatever. At least they served a purpose, right? I want there to be a purpose. I want Kirby in the film for the sake of being in the film and actually furthering the plot or the story or having some significance. Not just like, oh, she's in the film to say, oh, we have Kirby in the film. Oh, and also to just set up some series that you haven't done a good job of building her now 2 straight films, and you're expecting me to believe that the series is going to be good with her, right? Like, I just don't want that to happen. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you feel that, like, yeah, I agree with you. They need to do a better job with Kirby. Do you think no? Don't have Kirby in the film at all. Do you think no? They did good with Kirby. She's fine. Were you on board with the storytelling as far as Kirby Reed goes? Again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel. What are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.